I'd like to call the Monday, January 23rd, 2017 meeting of the Blue Springs Planning Commission to order. If everyone would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome to everyone, and those of you that are watching us from at home as well. I'll run through tonight's agenda. First item will be the consent agenda. Second item is just kind of an FYI on the continued public hearing from last meeting. Items 3 and 4 is a public hearing for Roanoke at Summerfield. Item 5 is a public hearing for amended planned unit development for Ridgewood Place at Chapman Farms. Item 6 is a preliminary plat for the villas at Chapman Farm. Item 7 is a final plan for the villas at Chapman Farm. Item 8 is the villas at Chapman Farm final plat. And then item 9 is a preliminary plat for Woods Chapel Corner, with item 10 following up a final plat for Woods Chapel Corner. 11 will be other business, and then 12 will be adjourn. So first item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes, and I have a correction on the minutes from item 5. On the vote, it shows Mitchell Peil is absent, and that should have reflected as Commissioner Cradoff was absent. So with that correction, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion. How about a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda would be the public hearing for, well, item 2 was a public hearing for Eagles Ridge that was continued to the February 13th meeting at our last meeting. I will open the public hearing for items 3 and 4 together. Before I do that, I'm going to run through the procedures for the public hearings. I will open the public hearing, call for exhibits from the city attorney. Staff will make comments. I will ask the applicant to make their presentation. Then I'll ask for witnesses in favor, witnesses opposed. I'll have a general question and discussion among the commissioners, and then I will close the public hearing and we will consider it for a recommendation. So with that, I will open items 3 and 4, public hearing for rezoning RZ-12-16-5617 Roanoke 22 of Summerfield East PRO, and item 4, which is a public hearing for the amended plan, residential concept plan for Roanoke 22 of Summerfield East PRO, which is PROC-12-16-5619. Public hearings are open. There has been a request to continue both of those to the February 13th meeting, so I would entertain a motion to continue.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Billups.
I would move we continue items 3 and 4 to February 13th.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Peil. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Those will be continued to the February 13th meeting. That brings us to item 5, which is public hearing for the amended plan unit development concept plan, PUDC-01-17-5627 Ridgewood Place at Chapman Farms. I will open the public hearing and ask for exhibits from our city attorney.
Mr. Chairman, the city has 8 exhibits. Number 1 is the staff report with attachments. Number 2 is the affidavit of publication in the Blue Springs Examiner. Number 3 is the application with attachments. Number 4 is the 185-foot notification map. Number 5 is a list of names and addresses of property owners within 185 feet of the site. Number 6 is a copy of the letter sent to those property owners. Number 7 is Title 4 Land Use Section, Blue Springs Code of Ordinances. Number 8 is the 2014 Comprehensive Plan. Those are all of the exhibits the city would offer into the record at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. McDonald. Mr. Wright, you can make the staff presentation this evening.
Thank you, Chairman Graham and Commissioners. Before you this evening is a request for an amended PUD concept plan for Ridgewood Place at Chapman Farms. This concept plan does include approximately 33.33 acres north of Southeast Mason School Road and east of the Greenbrier and the Shores at Chapman Farms subdivisions. The concept plan generally matches the preliminary plat that was approved back by the Planning Commission in November 2015. this development will include 105 single-family lots and 7 common tracts. The reason for the amendment to the concept plan is to reduce the minimum livable floor area classifications and some exterior and side yard setbacks. The applicant, Summit Custom Homes, would like to develop 3 different floor plan collections within the subdivision, each with a different range of housing sizes. And I'll let the applicant explain some of these to you, but the smallest floor plans would be part of a villas collection. I'll pull those up. The villas collection would require a 1,300 square foot minimum floor area. The remaining lots would require 1,300 square foot and 1,400 square foot lot sizes floor areas to accommodate ranch style homes. This is greater than the one step below the adjacent subdivisions, which is in the UDC. Greenbrier currently has an 1,800 square foot minimum for ranches with 3-car garages and 2,200 square feet for all other homes. And the Shores has a 2,000 square foot minimum for ranches with 3-car garages and 2,400 square feet for all other houses. Summit Custom Homes still intends on building some larger homes within Ridgewood Place, but would like more flexibility in the house sizes to appeal to a wider range of buyers. The architectural styles and building materials will be of the same quality as those already constructed in Greenbrier and the Shores, as well as Lakeside. And then the other request is to reduce minimum exterior setbacks, which would be the front and corner side yards for the villa lots, which are located in this part of the development here. That would be a reduction from 25 feet to 20 feet. And then a reduction in the interior side yard would be from 8 feet to 5 feet for those lots, and then the remaining lots in the development would have a reduction from 8 feet to 7 feet. A PUD final plan and final plat are scheduled to come before the Planning Commission on February 13th, and staff recommends approval of the PUD concept plan with the 5 conditions in the staff report. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Wright?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Peil?
Mr. Wright, on the documentation for this PUD for the villas, it shows as a ranch style and a 1.5 story. This may be for the applicant instead of you. But on that view, the elevation view, I'm assuming that was the ranch that was shown.
Yes, that was the ranch style. They also have, for the villas, they're primarily ranches. They may have a 1.5 story, but there will be also 1.5 story and 2-story homes within the subdivision elsewhere outside of the area that's designated as the villas portion of it.
Okay, it does say the villas does have 1.5. I'm assuming that is probably a reverse 1 story.
Yeah, I'll have to let the applicant respond to that.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Wright?
Mr. Wright, did we receive any feedback from our notification?
No.
Any other questions?
I have another one.
Sure.
Chairman. So what is again, remind us what the minimum square footage is right now designated?
There was not one specifically designated with the preliminary plat. However, based on the concept plan, the lot sizes, and the back in 2007 when everything was approved, or may have been before that, the estimated cost of the homes was comparable to Greenbrier. So that's kind of how we based that off of, was being comparable to Greenbrier. And under the UDC, they're allowed to step down 1 step. So they could have dropped from 2,200 to 2,000 if they wanted to, but they wish to go lower to provide this villa product that they're looking at.
Make sure I understand that correctly. So they could have went from 2,200 down to 2,000. They're asking to go to 1,300.
Yes, they could have gone to 2,000 without amending the concept plan.
Okay.
But if they're going to go further than that, they have to amend the concept plan.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Wright? Yes, Commissioner Fairbanks.
Is there precedent for reducing the side lot lines?
It has been done in other villa projects before. Sunny Point up in the northwest part of Blue Springs off of Woods Chapel has done that. There's been some other, I'm sure there's some other subdivisions with more villa-style homes that have done that as well.
Okay, it just seems very narrow.
Any other questions for Mr. Wright? All right, thank you. Would the applicant like to come forward and make their presentation? If you could state your name, address, and be sworn in, please.
Sure. It's Matt Schlicht, Engineering Solutions, 50 Southeast 30th Street, Lee Summit, Missouri.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this case is the truth, so help you God?
I do. All right. So what we are bringing back today for Ridgewood Place is basically something that is market-driven. We see a demand out there that shows that of the 171 homes that are built currently out there in the shores and Greenbrier and Lakeside that Summit has been fortunate enough to build many of, the same product, the same house, the same lots, the same look is kind of consistently happening out there. So as Summit has continued to develop across the entire metro area, what they're starting to see is inside subdivisions with 100 lots or larger areas than that even. It's best to then start taking and breaking different product groups into these subdivisions so that when you start driving down the subdivision, you aren't seeing the same look, the same feel, specifically in size, but you are still seeing the same architectural elements. So the idea in this subdivision is not that we're trying to take a 2,000 square foot home and reduce it down so that they can build some product of house that is smaller or cheaper, is to take the house and reach a group of market that makes the subdivision grow quicker and stabilize longer. So it's the same idea that if as a younger adult or a prospering professional you're buying something in the Signature Series, which is kind of our north portion of this development, the higher end homes, those are the homes that would be, maybe in the $350,000 to $450,000. As you continued to grow, or as you became an empty nester, you could move down into the villa section, which is still a house that starts at a base rate of somewhere in the $250,000, $275,000. But in a villa home, that is where the empty nesters are starting to take all of the upgrades. So that's where you're getting a lot more of the finer furnishings, a lot more of the finer appliances, a lot more of the fixtures to have in your home that you care about. So when you're buying them as a younger adult or younger family, you're buying for size and giving everyone space to have so that everyone can get a little breathing room. But as you get a little older, or empty nester syndrome, or maybe you're just a professional that didn't have children, a villa product gives you that opportunity to have a house that you can take, dress it up with the things you want, but still live in an environment where this entire 105 lots is not a villa product to where it's the same thing over and over. So it's the same idea. If you're in a two-story development with kids everywhere, there's people that want to be there. So it's the idea that we have that we're selling, that maybe that could be the mom and dad. Maybe grandma and grandpa can live in the villas and the kids can live up there with the grandkids so they can all be closer in the community. And having the opportunity that Summit has with Greenbrier, the shores, and Lakeside, the entire community with the trails, there'll be an additional pool put in this facility. It produces this walkability, this element down here that we can create a neighborhood and kind of network environment. And so that's kind of what we're going for. So when we started looking at this with staff and started looking at the classifications of how we could come down 200 square foot per block, based on the way that it works, where we really got hit was in the range. Because of the way the calculations work and because of the way the floor areas are, it was going to be impossible to build a villa in that area that you could build at a base rate and then put the amenities and the upgrades that you want into it to make it worth it. So like Matt was saying, that if it, if we had a villa the way that we had right now, I think that we could go down to, I think 1,800 right now is in Greenbrier for a ranch style. And so if we step down, I think we could get to 1,600 square feet for a ranch. So a variation of really what we're asking for is a 1,600 square foot in Greenbrier to a 1,300 square foot in ours. And the only purpose, again, is that there's 300 square feet that, yes, you could go in and you could build that house. But in what we're seeing and what we've done with houses, like I say, across the entire metro area, it's better to take that dollars that you could spend in just useless square footage and put that into the amenities to take the prices and the quality of the home that you live in to a better, more livable space. So from a general standpoint, our belief is that the villa product will be a base rate of $250, and it can go upward anywhere it wants to be from there. You know, we're building villas in Lee Summit now that are far in excess of $400,000, $500,000 just because of the amenity packages that go in there. Now, expectations in here that when the amenities go into these villas, they'll be in that same range of $300,000 or $325,000 or $275,000, $300,000, whatever it is, with the amenity upgrades, right in line with everything else that's being built out there. The Lifestyle Series is a series that would be just to the north and east of the villas. This product is going to allow and not force the buyer to come in and finish off the basement. So the Signature Series is basically you're going to have a house that is completely built, finished basement, everything completed into it, with again a few more upgrades. So the Signature Series is a little bit larger lot, a little more room. Like I say, then that was at $350,000 to $400,000. So the Lifestyle Signatures, or the Lifestyle Series, it kind of sits in the middle, is that $300,000, $325,000 house. As far as the side yard setbacks and the setbacks that we have in there, the only reason that we're asking for some of those reductions is, again, in the villa area. We're seeing this in a lot of our other areas we're developing. The 5-foot side yard just reduces the amount of exterior work that a person has to have. So again, a person that's buying in that villa section is not concerned with having an additional 2.5 feet is basically where we're at, short on each side yard, or the 20 feet in the backyard. It's the yard area wants to be reduced to have less maintenance. And so it's just a reduction in area to allow the houses to be in there, fit in that nice community villa type look that it has. And so it's not necessarily, it's just directed to the villa consumer that likes to have a little less maintenance on their property. We did have a neighborhood meeting last Thursday. We invited, I think the city sent out notices to 185 feet, but we also invited all of the HOA and had them notify all the residents. I think we had about 30 people show up. Most of the discussion was related to just kind of overall general area development, what was going on. There was some discussions on the size of the lots and size of the homes. I think we worked through it, showed them the pictures that you've seen in here, kind of what it's going to look like. I think overall, I think most of them were excited or acceptable of the idea and the approach, and understood what we were trying to do. So I don't think we left that meeting with any big resistance that we're aware of, that we know of anyway. So I think that's everything I had, unless you guys have questions.
Any questions for Mr. Schlicht?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Sanders.
Go ahead, Jason.
Has this been done in any other community in the metro?
Sure.
We can see.
Yeah, so we have a subdivision in Lee Summit. It's Parkwood, it's Stony Creek Estates. It's a larger development, so like I say, it's kind of the idea of what it would have been if we would have planned out with Greenbrier, the Shores, and like I said, all together. But in that product, in the front end, we have some split levels and smaller type homes that were built in the mid-90s, early 2000s. There's a villa section up front, and then as you kind of continue to the south, there's a manor, and then a reserve, and the estate, so that gets in some bigger areas. So it's a development that we have a number of different phases and different products in that one single development.
At the square footage of 1,300 square feet?
I'd have to check and see exactly what that villa is. I'd say right now it's probably a little larger than that, because in that villa section we're requiring like clay tile roofs and a few other things, stucco exteriors that have a little bit larger facilities or structures, but I'm not exactly sure. I can get exactly what that square footage is. I'd have to check, and I can talk to the developer and find out for sure if we have a square footage of 1,300 somewhere exactly, but I'm not 100% certain.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Peil.
Mr. Schlicht, I'll reiterate my question to staff was on the villa's 1.5 story. Is that a reverse 1.5?
Yeah, I apologize. I meant to answer it. Yes, so that would be a 1.5. So what we're thinking in the villas is everything would be range or something dropping down. So on the villa sections that are built now, about half of them would have the opportunity to have a lower level that would daylight or walk out. So those would be the 1.5s reversed.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sure.
Any other Commissioner Billups.
When I hear villas, I usually think maintenance provided. Is that what we're talking about here, or are we just talking about size and proximity to each other?
Right, so we are going with a active empty nester, I guess I would say, in this villa segment. Is not maintenance provided. It's a facility that, in this grouping here, it would, like I say, it would basically just try to be the architectural style, the upgrades and things like that that would make you more of a community, closer knit, but not maintenance provided.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Peil?
I have an additional question. Sorry, is that on the actual elevations here of the signature homes, is the painting, is the exterior paint going to change between each one of the houses, or is there going to be one theme? Like Chapman Farms seems to be one theme across the entire subdivision.
Right, so I think in this mindset, some custom homes started seeing this probably 4 or 5 years ago, where they started noticing that as they drove down the subdivision after it was completed, that it did start to look that same color tone. And so they have actually opened up their color wheels to where they have changed up and allowed a lot of different variations, and also started painting some accents and things on the different pieces. And I was trying to see, I don't know that I have the villa piece, because I think it had some of the pieces that show some color. So the answer is yes, there'll be some different color palettes that we introduce to try to break it up. The idea of the, somewhat that craftsman style will kind of be maintained, so the architectural elements stay similar, but the color palettes do change throughout the subdivisions as we've started to notice that as well. So like I say, this is coming to you from a developer that has done a number of homes and a number of developments in this entire metro area, and they're starting to see these market trends and fashions, and that's what this is trying to do. This is trying to get a hold of that and understand that there is definitely a market and drive towards this, to where, where we used to come in and put 105 lots in the exact same house and exact same size out there, it would sell, and it would sell over a time. Breaking it up and adding some opportunities in this thing has proven in the markets that it'll create more interest in the subdivision and create a better development speed of getting it going, getting it accessed, and continue its quality throughout time.
Understood. Thank you, sir. No further questions.
All right. Any other questions? Commissioner Fairbanks?
This Woodside example that you have for the villa is showing 1,480 square feet. You don't have anything that shows 1,300 square feet.
Yeah, and honestly, so I think we have one plan out of the 6 villa products that reach 1,320 square feet on a floor plan. They, like I say, most of them will be above, but they're all in that range. So the wood side that is there at 1,480 is one of the 6 options that we will build in the villa section.
But you don't show any other options.
Do we have? I know. Do we have the other ones or no? Did you guys bring the other ones? I don't know that we brought the other ones with us, to tell you the truth. Let me look back and see if we gave. Just looking through the pictures, you don't see anything on there that.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything there.
Yeah, there's nothing else with it, but
5 other elevations.
But yeah, so basically the way that Summit develops the products is, so like if you had the wood side, there would be 5 or 6 plans in the villa segment, the signature, and the lifestyle. And then within each of these developments, or within each of these, like wood side, you'd have options to make the front facade look different as well. So you'd have 4 or 5 options to make the front look different. So the answer to your question is, I don't have a 1,300 square foot to show you, but basically it's going to look the same style. It's just got somewhere on there, it's got a bump that makes that we lose 100 square foot on that home somewhere. But like I say, they're not all going to be 1,300 square foot. But like I say, that wood side being at 1,480, it might be one of the bigger ones, but they're all going to vary through that. 1,300, just we want to make sure we caught everything that was possible out there on any one of our plans that we drawn.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be based on the consumer when they came in, what home they selected. Every one of the villa type homes would fit on every one of the villa lots that we created.
So there would just be a difference in the depth of the backyard?
That'd be my guess. It's somewhere either on a side yard or the side of the home or the front of the home or rear of the home. There's been a little push or a pull somewhere so that it's not just a box. It's got some kind of element to it. So somewhere on one of the homes there must have been, or there is, an area where we've reduced it by 80 or 100 square feet, because I think technically, if I remember right, it's like 1,320 or 1,340 square foot is the smallest villa we currently have drawn.
Yeah.
Commissioner Billups, did you have a question?
I did. When we first set up Chapman Farms, 10 years ago, whatever it was, we had this same idea about, staying in proximity and everything else, and moving around in different sizes. But I think it was on a larger scale than what you're talking about here. Why do we need to have this much variation in what would have been a uniform area with the smaller lots, say across Mason School Road, and the larger lots across 7 Highway? Why do we need to have this like microcosm of what we tried to do in the entire Chapman Farms?
So I think the answer would be is we've worked in the Chapman Farms development, and I say we as a Summit Custom Homes and me with other developers, and trying to figure out what to do. As you know, Chapman Farms is a great plan and concept to get started on the idea of how to get this thing rolling. But it's developed and it's changed over time. There have been a lot of differences of how and what's been developed out there. So for example, I think that the school district owns a lot of the land to the south of this property actually. There's Walmart shown down there, where on the original Chapman Farms plan it was smaller type commercial type stuff. There is development of that villa type stuff, which I think you actually have some of that on today. They get down there by Colburn Road, that's a ways down there and a ways, but it's a discontinuous, it's not contiguous to anything we have up in here as far as roadways are going to go. It's going to be something that's kind of isolated down in that area. So what we're seeing in development is we're doing it metro-wide is that even these little micro areas, if you can create them, it provides you the opportunities to go in there and create a community. So whereas it used to be the idea of, like say with Chapman Farms, you'd have this big global area and you could pick 40 acres for this and 40 acres for that and on and everything else, what we're finding is, one, the speed at which that develops, just like Chapman Farms, it takes a long time to get that community there, if it ever makes it, just because of the fact of things that change throughout time. But also, doing it in some of these micro areas, you can actually create the same community effect with it, in the sense that when you drive into the subdivision, it's not that same look. It's not that same house. It's not that same style. You have opportunities for people to live together and maybe not necessarily be the same exact group of people. It's not an exact professionals with children living in that same 2-story home. You have the opportunity to put different people in the same areas on smaller scales. And it's working, like I say, metro-wide to show that the development of 105 single-family lots that were all 2 stories, all $350,000, well, there's only a certain number of people who can buy it. And so what you're finding is that if you can actually get in there and these 105 lots can get developed, and we can give a price range now from, say $250,000, $275,000 up to a guy being able to buy a $450,000 house in that same subdivision, it just lends itself an opportunity to develop the subdivision or that area much more efficiently and much quicker, which lends itself to being a much stronger and much better development as time goes on. So this is, like I say, the reason this is back in front of you, because if you remember, like I say, we're if you look out there, we're done. We're ready to start building houses. And what has kind of caused this is, as we kind of looked at this, the market has kind of driven us the idea that there's an opportunity here to create it here and not just, leave it the way that it was. So, if you remember, we came back in probably almost a year ago and brought the Chapman Farms idea with you and brought the villas and brought the things in there, and then we started looking at it and saying, if we put the villas in there at the size homes that would have to be in there, the price of that villa would be so much higher than the Signature Series. Does that start making sense of how that would develop? So if you had a villa product in there where it's a 1,800 square foot minimum ranch style home, the price of that villa reduces what the upgrades the person can put into the house, and does that make it a viable villa that someone's going to want to live in as an empty nester? So our belief in just seeing that, and the word villa is kind of its own animal. It's grown over the years of what that actually means. Because like I say, it used to mean only maintenance provider. It used to just mean small square house with everything else kind of taken care of. Well, this is the idea of basically taking the same architectural elements that we have in our nice two-story big homes and providing a nice quality villa type product that has the same elements and same things that you can live in and still, be proud to be a part of, and not, like say, nothing against the villa products that are the entire side of it, or two stories that are the entire side of it. It's just our belief that the market says that this helps create a better community and a better area.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Schlicht? Commissioner Sanders?
So I've heard this market driven a couple times now, and I'm curious, is not Chapman Farms doing well? It seems like there's no lots available at this point, so is that what the product is, being in demand? And so, I mean, I hear this market driven, and we got to downsize from what the thought was 10 years ago. I'm still wondering why you all feel there is a need to respond to some market conditions, or Blue Springs cannot manage the growth of those houses.
No, I think, and I think the problem in this discussion gets to the look at it and the belief that it's just a downsize. The look that this is just a request to downsize this from 1,800 square foot possible ranch that we can put in that villa to a 1,300 square foot just because we want to build something smaller. And when we say market driven, the idea is, no, you're right. Chapman Farm has been doing well lately, but it's taken some time to get to the point where it is. And what we're bringing to you is, the developer and the builder that's been building in this area and doing all of these homes in this area, expressing concern or expressing comment, I guess I just should say, that they believe this product will sell better if we can do this. And by better, it just means at a faster rate to which more development can come and continue development in that area. So it's not to say that if you build it the way that it's currently shown and constructed out there on site, that it wouldn't take long. We're just saying on the saturation rate and the time that it would take to get through this phase of development and get ready for the next phase to come up and then start the next development out there, it's just a time frame. And so our belief is just doing these products and doing this across the metro is that this will move this product faster, this will move this development better, this will continue that good growth that's going on in Chapman Farms and continue that development out there that was shown, like I say, 10 years ago with the hopes that, I think 10 years ago or 15 years ago when Chapman Farms was begun, everybody hoped that that would happen in a very speedy time frame and continue to click off. But, as you've seen markets happen, they come up, they go down. And so our belief is that, no, this isn't some kind of market driven, that the city of Blue Springs is in great trouble if you don't do anything with it. We just believe this provides a better opportunity for everybody to succeed and get a product out there that can continue that development in that area.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Peil?
Mr. Schlicht, during your presentation, you mentioned that there was a neighborhood meeting. How many people attended that meeting?
30.
We did it at the coffee shop up there by the bank, and my guess would be somewhere in the range of 30, probably, I'd guess.
Okay, pretty good representation from about 38 or so letters that were sent out. So, and your general feeling from the neighborhood was that they didn't see any issues with the construction type and the plans?
So I think most of the comments that were there were related to what the development generally was. So what was going to happen with a lot of parcels of land out there that are adjacent to Greenbrier or adjacent to Lakeside, or kind of around the bank of who owns them, what are we going to do with them. A lot of development conversations came up to what Mr. Frost is doing up there. Some of them thought actually that the development we were talking about was related to his somehow. So we kind of just worked through a map and kind of globally showed them where we were and what they were doing. We did have the conversations, I think, of what size homes they were going to be, but really that was more the discussion, and it was just kind of a comment of, we're asking to build 1,300 square foot minimum homes. This is why. I don't think I recall anything of saying we don't like that idea, just more of what are you doing or what is it. So yeah, I say when we left, I feel like we had a pretty good understanding that everybody was, heard us. Nobody had any real big comments. We offered an opportunity for any of them to come here tonight and speak. So I don't, like I say, I felt like it was a good meeting.
Okay, again, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Schlicht? All right, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor? Anybody that would like to speak in opposition? Yes, if you could come forward, state your name, address, be sworn in, please. Oh, you can stand here at this podium right here.
Oh, I can?
Yep.
If I had to go to the big one?
Nope.
Okay.
If you can state your name, address, and then you'll need to be sworn in.
Yeah, my name is Ashton Goldsworthy. My address is 8809 Southeast 1st Street, Lee Summit, Missouri, 64064. I'm a Chapman Farms resident and a local business owner.
You need to be sworn in first.
Oh,
if you
sorry.
raise your right hand.
Yeah,
You're right.
I love public speaking.
Where the testimony about to give in this case, the truth, so help you God.
Yes. Okay. All right, so where do we start? So I think that he has the wrong interpretation of what everyone felt at that meeting. There's actually been a lot of concern about the development that they're going to develop here, mainly how it's going to affect the current owner's property values. Nobody wants to spend $300,000+ and then have their property values decline because they're building houses that are less expensive there. And that's what we feel is going to occur at this place. We were also, I mean, the original plan to say, what, 2,200 square feet is what the average house is, I mean, the house should be in that neighborhood, and they're going to downsize it to, like, at the biggest, 1,300 square feet. It seems like a stark contrast from what, you know, we were told when we bought properties out there. The other issue, too, is, I mean, infrastructure. I mean, let's talk about infrastructure. So, I mean, the city of Blue Springs, I've lived here my entire life. I grew up here. I look down 7 Highway and I see thrift stores and, you know, vapor shops. What do you think lower income housing is going to bring in as far as for businesses? What business is going to want to come out here if there's not an infrastructure to support it? So I think it's bad for the community as a whole, not just Chapman Farms residents. And as it looks, I mean, Blue Springs has what, only so much room to develop things. Why? We got to be careful what we put places, or else we're not going to have anything at the end of it. We're going to end up with, you know, dilapidated neighborhoods that no one want to live in. Any questions for me?
Anybody have any questions? All right, thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else that would like to speak? If you could state your name, address, and be sworn in, please.
Yeah, my name is C.K. Smith, 104 Southeast Shores Trace, Blue Springs, Missouri.
You sound swear the testimony about to give in this case, the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm a resident just north of the Signature Series. I bought my home last February based on the premise that my investment would be protected on all sides because of what I was told by Chapman Farms. Nothing was in writing saying as such, but when I get told that this area is up for future development and it's in the, I don't know if it's code of conduct or what it's called, but it says 2,200 square feet. And to me, they're telling me that it's going to be the size of my house or bigger. So my home's in the mid to upper 300s, and when you say that, I'm okay with that. I would actually be okay even with the 2,000, but to go down is something that I'm uncomfortable with, and I know a lot of other people are. I'm here on behalf of pretty much my entire street. A lot of them have kids, they couldn't make it, so we all talked about it. To me, this looks like a haphazard, last-minute version of Newtown, and it's not big enough for that. Nobody's going to move from Signature Series down to the Villa Series as an empty nester. You don't move 3 blocks when you get rid of your kids. You know, and the disconnect between our neighborhood as it is and the Villa Series, it's not going to create community, it's going to create turmoil. I mean, no offense, but I worked hard to get where I'm at, and when I made my decision, I did it soundly, and I did my research on the area, and I asked the proper questions to make sure that my property value would be protected. And now to come back and say well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to mix in the Signature Series, which is about like your house, but real quick on a connecting street. The street there to the west connects to the road that I live on, and then you're quickly going out to 1,300 square feet. Sorry, I have my notes here. This to me doesn't do anything for the community, as Summit says. I'm in business, I understand, and I actually used to build houses. This is about inventory. This is about turning inventory. This is about getting done with this project and moving on to the next. I think it's a bad idea, and I hope you guys vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Smith? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else that would like to speak in opposition? If you could state your name, address, and be sworn in, please.
Natalie Belcombs, 512 Southwest Lakeside Drive.
Raise your hand, please. You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this case is the truth, so help you God.
So help me God. I want to thank Summit for all their charitable work. I want to also thank them for my home. I'm a happy customer. When you enter our subdivision, there's a sign that says home. It's from the 280s, and that was when I bought my home 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago. And so with inflation, that should technically be going up, not going down. So it's of great concern when we look at putting in houses that start in the 250s. There are some other neighborhoods similar to ours where they've then added smaller homes, and I think it has lowered their property values, and we just don't want to see the same thing happening to ours. But anyway, thank you, Summit. I do appreciate your 2 dream homes we've had and many good things you do, and the soccer teams that you've sponsored. But we're really concerned that this is about inventory and about your bottom dollar and not about ours. And we only have one house that we invest in. One. You have many, and I think this is going to hurt us in the long run. Thank you.
Is there any questions? All right, thank you. Yes, if you could state your name, address, and be sworn in, please.
It's Scott Robidoux, 8728 Southwest 5th Street, Lee Summit, Missouri 64064.
You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this case is the truth, so help you God.
I do. I just want to echo what's already been said. I'm worried about my property value. I made an investment in Chapman Farms with the idea that similar products were going to be built throughout the neighborhood until it was finished. That's obviously not what they want to do. One thing that was mentioned was the villas at Parkwood. These are, these villas, they're 3-car garages. They're much nicer finishings. I mean, it's not a comparable product to what they're gonna, to the pictures they put up there. So that's one thing. I mean, we've talked about floor space, but a 3-car garage versus a 2-car garage is a big difference in home value. And that's all I have.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Robidoux? Yes, Commissioner Fairbanks.
Is there a consensus that they're concerned about the lot size, or is it only the square footage of the units?
It's lot size, it's square footage, it's garage size. I mean, there's plenty of concern over lost property value.
Okay.
Mr. Robidoux, could you spell your last name for us, please?
Yes, it's Robidoux.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Any other witnesses that would like to speak in opposition? All right. I will bring this back up here for the commissioners for discussion, questions, comments on the record. Commissioner Billups.
I'll go back to what I said. When we designed Chapman Farms, and we spent a lot of time dealing with that, and then, yes, it was 10 years ago and 15 years ago, and yes, the housing market tanked, and now it's coming back, and we're all glad to see it. We're super glad that the building is occurring in Chapman Farms. But we designed it so that there would be all of these different house sizes, but they wouldn't be on top of each other. And we did that on purpose. We didn't want the $350,000 house next to the $250,000 house, you know, backyard to each other. We intentionally tried to keep them all separate, and I really think that was a good idea. And I don't know that taking the whole idea of Chapman Farms and putting it down in one of the areas of Chapman Farms is a good one. Just not sure that's the right way to go.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion, comments?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Peil.
what would be the outcome of a nay on this PUD? Would it have to revert back to the original that was submitted, since this is an amended piece?
This is a recommendation to council, so it would just go to the city council with a no recommendation from planning commission.
Okay. Because the original one, I'm sure, was approved by the city council. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I am going to close the public hearing, and I would entertain a motion if someone would be so inclined to make one. Anyone?
I'm still torn. I'm still torn. I understand what they want to do. I just,
That's two.
it's too extreme a variation. That's really the bottom line. There are other places in Chapman Farms where you can do a 1,300 square foot villa without it being right on top of these other homes. So I guess I would move that we recommend denial of this amended plan.
Okay, I have a motion to deny. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Commissioner Fairbanks. This will be a roll call vote.
Planning Commissioner Wallace.
Aye.
Commissioner Sanders.
Abstain.
Commissioner Haney.
Aye.
Commissioner Fairbanks.
Is a yes vote that you want to decline it?
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
Commissioner Peil.
Aye.
Commissioner Bartolotta.
No.
Commissioner Billups.
Aye.
Chairman Graham.
No. Motion to deny passes, so we will send that recommendation along to the February 6th City Council meeting. Next item on the agenda is item 6, which is an amended preliminary plat for the villas at Chapman Farm, PP-01-17-5626. We will hear items 6, 7, and 8 together, but we will consider them separately. And Mr. Wright is going to make those presentations for us.
All right, thank you, Chairman Graham and Commissioners. Before you are 3 requests for the villas at Chapman Farms, which is located approximately 820 feet north of Colburn Road, generally between Southwest 2nd and Southeast 2nd Streets. This does include, this is an amended preliminary plat that does include all of the villas, which is 30.94 acres. It does include 114 single-family lots, about half of which have already been developed, and then 11 common tracts. The reason for amending this preliminary plat is some modifications to the approved street layout and future connections to adjacent property. Originally, the approved street layout provided an east-west connection from Southwest Aiden Lane out to eventually a connection to 7 Highway, and then also an east connection to future parkland that the city owns that would be developed as a future park. The amended layout shifts that west connection down one block to Southwest Wind Garden Street. And then the east connection has been removed after discussion with the Parks Department, that they would prefer, generally, if it's the park that's going to be developed as a larger park, they did not feel comfortable having vehicular accessing the park through a neighborhood, and said the primary access to that park would be off of Colburn Road. But in lieu of a street connection, which there already is one down here at Southeast Hanging Garden, would be a 20-foot pedestrian easement at the end of Southeast Hayden Lane that would provide a possible future trail connection into the park for pedestrians, should the Parks Department ever wish to develop that. The second request is for a PUD final plan for the second plat, which includes 29 lots, 4 common open space tracts, and on 8.04 acres. It's located in the the northwestern portion of the Villas development. This would the second phase. The third phase would be at a later date, and that's the northeast corner. The PUD final plan does match the amended preliminary plat that's here this evening. There would be an 8-foot trail connection, just a very small trail connection down here in the corner, that builds off of the existing trail in the first phase. That trail connection will eventually connect to properties to the north and west as those develop. A minimum 7-foot landscape buffer has been provided along the western boundary line there. And that'll be installed prior to the either installed or financial guarantee provided before the issuance of the first building permit. The architectural style is consistent. The front to back split that's been built in the first phase, they're proposing to continue that with lap siding and masonry. And then the final request is for a final plat for the second plat, or second phase. And again, it's 29 lots on 8.04 acres. Most public improvements have been completed with the exception of Southwest Wind Garden Street connection to the west. That can be financially guaranteed prior to City Council approval. Also, sidewalks adjacent to any common tracks and the 8-foot trail extension in Track G will also need to be financially guaranteed prior to City Council approval. The required landscape buffer and common track landscaping should be installed or financial guarantees submitted prior to the issuance of the first building permit. And then the minimum floor area classification for the second plat is 1,400 square feet or Class G, which is consistent with the first plat. Development maintenance agreement must be submitted and approved simultaneously with the final plat, and staff does recommend approval of the amended preliminary plat subject to 8 conditions. The PUD final plan with 7 conditions and the final plat with 11 conditions. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Wright? All right. Got out easy this time. Would the applicant like to come forward and make their presentation? If you could state your name and address for us, please.
Yes, it's Paul Miller. It's 3505 Southwest Park Lane, Blue Springs, Missouri, 64015.
Thank you.
We appreciate the staff's work on this. You know, we went through several processes to get to this point, but we do greatly appreciate their work on this. As Matt had mentioned, basically we have a couple of items that we're adjusting on the preliminary plat to make it a little bit better and work better for everybody. And the conditions that are on all 3 of the items, we've looked through those, and those are acceptable to us.
Okay.
So if you have any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Miller? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll consider item 6, the amended preliminary plat first. I would entertain a motion. Don't all you jump at once. Commissioner Wallace.
I'd like to make a motion for approval. of the amended preliminary plat, PP01,
And we're
PP dash, whoops, we're on 6, item 6.
Yes, item 6.
Item 6, okay. PP-01-17-5626 with the staff recommendations.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
second.
Second from Commissioner Billups. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 7, which is the planned unit development final plan. Commissioner Wallace.
Sure. I'd like to make a motion for approval of PUDF-12-16-5614, the planned unit development final plan with the staff recommendations.
With the 7 staff conditions. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Fairbanks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. And then the item number 8, the final plat, which will be a recommendation to City Council. If someone would like to make a motion on that for me. Commissioner Wallace.
Sure, I'll do it again. I'd like to make a motion for approval of the final plat, PF-12-16-5615 with the staff recommendations.
I have a motion. How about a second?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Fairbanks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That recommendation will be sent to the February 6th City Council meeting with our recommendation of approval. Item 9 is a preliminary plat for Woods Chapel Corner. We'll hear item 9 along with item 10, which is the final plat, but consider those separately. And Mr. Jurey is going to present that to us this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Planning Commissioners. Before you have a request for a preliminary plat and final plat for the Woods Chapel Corner Lot 1, which is located on the southeast corner of Jefferson and Northwest Woods Chapel, which I'll try and pull up. Just in that box right there, and the aerial. Currently, there's an existing gas station, convenience store, and it's located on approximately 0.53 acres, and it's general business zoning currently. The purpose for this final plat request, or preliminary and final plat request, is the developer is looking to redo, possibly add an addition. They've submitted for a site plan design review, which you will be hearing at the next Planning Commission meeting. But they are looking to revamp the site, and as such, they do need to get it final platted since it has not been final platted before. With that, during the final plat process, the only public improvement that hasn't been made that the city is requesting is the sidewalk along Jefferson Street. And as you can see, they have it shown, but it does need to connect or provide a better connection point to the east there. And staff did receive the final plat signed and notarized today, so it's not reflected on this, but those did show that connection point being better situated, connecting to the east there. Beyond that, there are some existing easements that allow the lot to the south access to Woods Chapel. And beyond that, the staff does recommend the approval of this with 4 conditions. One is being that the financial guarantee or the installation of that sidewalk does need to occur before City Council approval. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Jurey? All right. Is the applicant here? Would you like to come forward and make a presentation? If you could state your name and address for me, please.
Khalid Bande with CAM Design and Construction with the designers, and it has 2 existing driveway approaches, which is one is closer to the intersection which after discussing with the planning department, we did agree to close that. And we'll be opening one on the north side, for which we did a traffic study, has been given to this Public Works Department, and we're waiting for their approval for that. Sidewalk will be constructed in addition to that drive approach, and there is going to be a all 100% face uplift for the building. We're doing some 600 feet of addition on the back. Car wash is going to be removed, and that is going to be included in the C-store building, sir.
Okay. Any questions?
I have one.
Commissioner Bartolotta.
The property to the south, due south, there's a old metal building, I think that was used for an oil company at one time. Do they have an easement from you to get to their property?
Yeah, it's shown out there, sir, yeah.
Well, but it said it was taken over by a quick claim deed, and I didn't know if that meant anything, that they would not have a right to use that if you took it over.
They have
So the easement will stay?
Will stay, sir, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. So we will consider item 9, the preliminary plat first. I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Billups.
I would move for approval of preliminary plat PP 01175622 with the 4 staff recommendations.
I have a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Commissioner Fairbanks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 10, the final plat. Would someone like to?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Billups.
I would also move for approval of the final plat 01175623 with the 4 staff recommendations.
I have a motion. How about a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Commissioner Fairbanks. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That recommendation for approval will be sent to the February 6th City Council meeting. Thanks. You're welcome. Thank you. Item 11 brings us to other business. Mr. Allen, do you have any other business for us this evening?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. All I have to share at this point is the lengthy agenda that'll be before you at the next meeting, which will be February 13th. So that's 3 weeks from tonight, because there's a 5th Monday next week. So just heads up on that. Again, you heard tonight continuation or reminder of the continuation of the Eagles Ridge project, along with the continuation tonight of the Roanoke 22 Summerfield East project. Those are both obviously larger scale projects with a lot of public interest in those, and a number of other items tentatively scheduled for the 13th. Vacation related to White Oak Marketplace, which is the Price Chopper South, Old White Oak Center. Conditional use permit as in relation to the picture on the screen, the property to the south, as Commissioner Bartolotta mentioned, conditional use permit for that project for the used car user at that location. The Parkway Senior Project, if you're familiar with that, Napoleon and Adamsbury Parkway, they're looking at some villas associated with that project, as well as, let's see here, oh goodness, there's quite a bit.
Don't scare everybody off in the next meeting.
I'm losing track, but
I'll be sitting up here by myself.
Right. No, this is all, again, a lot of these are related to what you've even heard here tonight. Again, just even here, as Mr. Jurey mentioned, the gas station here, their site plan design review, that project, and again, some additional plats and such moving forward. So a lot to consider, which is great. We're a city on the move, as the mayor likes to say, so we're continuing to do so. A lot before you here in 3 weeks, so hopefully we'll see everybody on February 13th.
All right. Anybody have any other business they would like to bring forward?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Billups.
Got to give everybody my downtown update for the day.
All right.
For the week. Anybody who doesn't have anything to do on that 5th Monday next week, come downtown. The pre-sale for the Downtown Alive Piccadilly event is on Monday night. For the actual Piccadilly, which is in March, I believe it's March 10th, Friday night. And So there'll be a party at American Community Bank to start selling the tickets for that annual event that everybody enjoys so much.
And what time does that start?
The pre-sale, I believe, starts at 5.
Okay.
And runs till 6:30.
Okay.
And the theme for this year's event is Gypsy Prom, whatever that means to anybody.
I'll have to show up and find out.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Be sure to wear your costume.
Yes. Well, I'll be waiting tables, which of course, because this is a ladies' event, so, and then the gentlemen are all out there helping to serve, so I'll be there in that capacity.
All right.
In whatever they decide, in whatever they decide to dress me in. There was talk of pirate shirts and satin sashes and things like that, but I don't know.
We might have to come just to see that.
You might.
Any other business? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. So
I
moved.
will move to adjourn.
I have a motion. I've got a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.